Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. Um, so I want to talk today a little bit more in more detail. First of all, let me talk about what's going on planetary-wise and solar-wise with our star. There was three M-class solar flare, one of which the last one was near X-class, that was earthbound and that collided with the Earth over the weekend, and it's still colliding now, creating aurora in all kinds of places. I saw some beautiful ones somebody posted in New Zealand and in Australia, beautiful pictures, one of my friends on Facebook. So sometimes, and in addition to that, right now, Earth facing, there's a gigantic gash, bigger than both Americas together, that's leaking plasma toward the Earth at this moment. It's not like the CME, because the CME usually comes here faster, but the plasma is steady streams of disruptive electrical charges that will collide for the next few days with the magnetosphere of the planet. So the reason I'm saying this is that for me, the experience I had, I was helping somebody out yesterday, and I was doing some physical work. And every time I bent down and tried to get up, it felt like my axis was tilted to the right, like I was not aligned correctly, and I became dizzy to the point, like for a couple of seconds, I had to lean on walls. This happened about 3 or 4 times during the course of this thing, and I didn't. Sometimes you go live your life. You get the information and the warning. You go live your life, and I didn't think about it until afterwards, when everything was said and done. I left, and I'm coming back home. I realized, oh my God, it's because of the solar flare. Because one of the symptoms, aside from from waking up in the middle of the night for the reason, i.e., me for the past few days, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up and I can't go back to sleep. So you don't realize the disruption, and one of the other symptoms is that it makes you feel like you're dizzy, because the electrical charges, because we are also magnetic and electrical by nature, whatever is happening to the aurora and to the magnetosphere is happening in our field as well. Now remember that the sun is not trying to hurt us. It's not trying to damage us. Rather, it's trying to dismantle and help us dismantle and remove neural net connection in our brain that are connected to trauma and to fear that do not belong. That's the purpose. So when I realized this last night, I was so exhausted when I got home. I mean, to the point like I had to take a couple of painkiller pill, like Tylenol, just so that I could feel like I'm back in my body. I ate, I had a cup of tea, and then I was like, okay, I need some help, because I was so drained that I felt like I would not be able to go to sleep. So the long and the short is that I did a prayer to the sun, asking the sun, knowing clearly that the sun is the reason why life is in existence on Earth, and that the sun is not trying to hurt me, and whatever needs to be removed and dismantled from my neural net and electrical grid, from ancestral lineage memories of trauma to trauma from this lifetime, from karmas, everything that doesn't belong, I yield. I welcome your help. Please proceed in the gentlest way possible. And I went to sleep. So I'm trying to remind you of this. I've talked about this in classes way in the past, but I'm trying to use my experience and the example for you, so that in the future, when you know solar flares are coming and you're beginning to feel out of whack, and drink plenty of water, take a nap. I took a nap this afternoon. Take naps, okay? Because the nap will actually help you a lot. Again, every time as I goes on, I could take the nap, I talk to the sun. Again, reaffirm the same prayer, asking for help, asking telling the sun that I'm not resisting, and I took a 2-hour nap. And as such, all of a sudden, when I woke up rejuvenated, fresh, because I could feel like kind of like around 2 o'clock or 3, I began to feel like somebody unplugged me. Yet I have to tell you, I was very what's the word? Um, um, I was very efficient. I was able to accomplish quite a bit. I started writing a new chapter in my book. I completed one chapter, added some information, and I wrote half of a chapter. This was on Friday. So I was still I managed to. Sometime when I'm in that state of collision with the earth, I feel so out of sort that I can't focus. I was able to focus, but it's hitting me this time physically. It's not my mental clarity that was affected. I don't know. For you, it might be different. For me, that part was working perfectly. It's my physical body that I felt like that was completely like my body was failing me. Okay. And so I took a nap, as I said, today, this afternoon. And when I woke up, I felt rejuvenated. I felt great. I was like, okay, I'm all right now. Thank you, son. Thank you for your help. Thank you for giving me the support that I need. So I'm trying to give you the tool set so that in the event that solar flares are coming and you're beginning to feel, because when the symptom comes in, you're not thinking about the sun. You think that, I'm thinking my blood pressure must be out of whack. So that's why I'm feeling dizzy. Or I just had breakfast, I didn't have lunch. Maybe it's because I'm hungry and, I don't have enough nutrients in my body. But it didn't occur to me till everything was complete that it was solar flare related. And of course, when I connected everything back together, I was like, of course, that makes sense now. So I'm trying to remind us all of this. And when you're feeling these symptoms, remember to talk to the sun, do a prayer. And I'm telling you, drink plenty of water, take a nap. It's going to make a world of difference. An hour nap, a 2-hour, what I call a power nap, you wake up, you're going to feel so much better. Because when you're not resisting, the work is done very quickly. Instinctively, the neural net that the sun or the collision is trying to remove and disconnect or loosen, we have a tendency to control everything as human beings. We tend to try to hold the status quo and control. And so your body instinctively is trying to hold these connections. And therefore, it becomes very painful and very difficult. Whereas if you were to yield into it, the change would occur with great ease. So I'm encouraging that for you. Today, I want to talk in some more details about the role that the resisting force that is designed to help us grow and help us evolve in this planet, what role that they're playing, and there are several aspects of this resisting force, and I'm going to talk specifically about 2 of them. There are 3 aspects to it, and I'm going to talk about specifically 2 of them in great details and help us understand the difference between the 2, and I will conclude by talking about the actual ascension process and what we are supposed to be doing with that. I'm going to start first by talking about I'm going to be succinct because I've spoken about this multiple times before, about the desire to receive and the desire to give and the desire to receive. This is our own creation. And by the way, the path of ascension that I teach, because there are multiple paths to ascendance. Ascension, let's just start with this. Ascension is a remembrance of our origin. And for that to happen, 3 major initiation or threshold must occur. There has to be a power increase. Second, there has to be an expansion in your capacity to love. And third, there has to be an acquisition of great wisdom. And when the three of them, they're called the threefold flame, or balanced perfectly in you, ascension begins. All the mechanics, the teaching, and everything else I've been giving you are connected to that. Now, having said this, ascension, there are different paths or mechanics that different teachers who are ascended have achieved. They're people from all faith, all different walks of life. There's a path of devotion, prayers, mantras, and devotion. There's a path of service where you share and give. I can think of Mother Teresa as someone who was on the path of service. There is a path of knowledge where knowledge brings wisdom. The path that I teach, and of course, in all these three paths that I'm telling you, the three threshold, the 3 points, or needs to be crossed in order for ascension to begin. How it happened, it can happen through service, through devotion, through knowledge, or the way I was taught by my teacher. It's the path, because before my teacher renamed his teaching, it was originally called the Melchizedek Synthesis Light Ashram Academy. It's the path of Melchizedek, and it's the path of neutrality. And it's a path of synthesis where all of the paths merge as one. So it's not specifically just prayer or devotion. It's not just service, nor is it just knowledge, but it's all of them together. And I want to be very clear about that because I want to be able to illuminate for you what we've been doing, kind of like giving you the long view of all the guidance I've been giving you for the past. For some of you have been with me for more than 15 years. So I just wanted to just like zoom back and give you a sense of this. Now, let's start again with our creation myth. In the beginning, there existed only an infinite desire to give. You can call it God, you can call it the uncreated or the unmoved mover, but that energy system was everywhere and nothing was outside of it. But because it was so everywhere, it was impossible for it to become self-aware. Because in order for you that you know that you exist, there has to be an outside or a mirror for you to look at yourself into. So for that to happen, that infinite desire to give emptied the place and manifested an infinite desire to receive. And for a while there, the desire to receive and the desire to give were in a perfect alchemical marriage. So the receiver desired things and the giver gave. And the receiver was simply, to close the infinity loop, the giver was simply to be grateful for the gift received. So, and for a while there, it worked. It worked perfectly. And this process was a way for the giver to see itself and to become self-aware. It was the mirror. And it worked perfectly well until the receiver begun to receive gifts without being grateful, being in reverence for whatever gift that were received. And because of this, this kind of like lack on the part of the receiver, this omission on the part of the receiver, what happened is that it begun to create a place for entitlement to show up, where, you know, I need to have this and no thank you, from a place of generosity, from a place of awe or thankfulness, or for that matter, of reverence. Because of this entitlement became corrupted. And as it became corrupted, it actually became manifested as shame and undeservedness. Because if you keep giving to somebody something and they feel that they're not giving anything back, there comes a point where they will be tremendously shameful and feeling undeserving of the gift received. They will want to give something back to you, and the way the whole system was created, the gift, the return gift, was simply gratitude. And because that was not present, the shame grew, and it became so big and so toxic at some point that the receiver said, no more gift. I'm too shameful. I don't want anything anymore. Don't reflect, don't mirror anything back to me. I can't receive it. And at that moment, although it was a perfect reflection of the infinity of the uncreated, it shrunk down and collapsed into itself and became like a dot. And the receivers panicked and got afraid and said to the giver, I made a mistake, come back, I'm so sorry, I apologize. Restore everything the way it was. But the giver was smarter. It realized, I can fulfill every desire that the receiver has, but I cannot remove the shame and the undeservedness. So it had to figure out a system to help remove the shame and the undeservedness. So what happened is that it touched the receiver again, and when it touched it, it shattered it into a gigantic spiritual detonation, according to Kabbalah, that from the dot, everything exploded out at speed and pressure that you and I cannot even begin to comprehend. And up to that point, there was no space, no time. And time expanded out from that dot. Everything expanded out. The entire multiverse expanded out from that one dot. And continue to expand out, by the way, because it's infinity. It's a reflection of infinity. It keeps expanding. There is a constant at which space objects separate from each other called the Hubble constant, and that expansion rate is universal. So as this expansion the space-time was created, we became over time, over eons and eons, the fragment of the receiver. And what we need to do is learn how to give and receive to each other in a balanced manner, whilst we are trying to remove our own undeservedness. But for that to happen, the giver also manifested a force, a vast and immense intelligence, extremely sophisticated, called Saturn. We call it, in our own vocabulary, the adversary or the accuser. But that energy system, we're not talking about a horn being with a tail and a pitchfork. We're talking about a super intelligent force created for the purpose of bringing real tests to us, of resisting our ability to overcome so many major obstacles in our life that we have a hard time making the task of accepting the light and the blessing that are coming from the giver almost impossible to overcome. Sometimes people are asking, why is it so hard and so difficult? Because your shame is so big. That's the reason. And the adversary is doing its job. And its job is to make it difficult. And the more difficult it is, and the more you have to strenuously do this and that, and you have to apply such effort, that effort will remove your shame. So when you reconnect again to the giver, and the alignment is reconnected, it's not that the giver is not connected to you right now. It's not that the giver is not in me, in every cell in my body, everywhere in my life. It's the fact that I have shame and I think I'm separated. And this is true for all of us on earth. We should all be living in the original estate that was where the receiver, the moment the receiver thought of something, instantaneously, it was manifested. What's helping us is that every time we overcome these extremely complicated tests and we think we're deserving, then the gift can be accepted. So the adversary is playing a role, an important role. It was not till the New Testament that the Hasatan was understood as a personality, like a horn being in the picture. None of that existed in the Old Testament. So much so that in the book of Job, when the second book of Job, that first passage talk about the sons of God or an angel. Angels went to the heaven to talk to God, and Satan was among them. And Satan was having a casual conversation about his work. And Satan was saying, I'm on earth, I'm doing that or the other. And God asked him, like two friends or catching up with each other. And this is when God asked him about Job, and then Satan said, he has never been tested. I'm paraphrasing. And because he hasn't been tested, I'm going to test him. And God said, yes, but you cannot touch a hair on his body. You cannot kill them. But go ahead and test him. And Job began to lose everything that he has. And I'm telling you right now that all of us on earth at this moment, including me, are going to multiple Job experiences, multiple of them. And I want to step back for a moment because I want to explain this in a way that will make it easier for us to understand. We're grown, we're adult, because in the end, you will realize that all of these tests from all of the so-called fallen beings are ultimately for our benefit. When we are trying to demonize them and make them into so-called evil characters and they must be cast out and killed and destroyed and so on and so forth. Let me say this to you. God has infinite power and infinite knowledge. God has not killed one of them. They were created for a purpose. God has imprisoned them, cast them out and put them in places, but God has not killed one of them. It has not disintegrated any one of them. So, okay, let's step back for a second and talk about the three classes of being I'm talking about. The first one is Hasatan, created when the universe was manifested as the resistance. In electricity, you have positive and negative. You can think of, to make it simple, you can think of positive, negative, the positive being the giver, the negative being the receiver. But between the positive and the negative, for anything to be manifested, there has to be a resistance. And that resistance is typically in the wire that connects the two. It's wires that are coiled multiple times, looped multiple times together to create the resistance so that you can have light or heat. If you look at like the filaments of your light bulb that Edison created, it's a wire, it's a copper wire that has all these loops, a resistance. And then it's connect, and it returns back. One connected to the positive, the other to the negative. And what happened inside this vacuum sealed glass container? Light. It manifests light. Okay? Heat is created in the same way. The resistance is needed. So we're talking about now that we spoke about the first class of being. The second class is what we would call, in language that commonly known in religious circle, it would be Lucifer. Now, the Luciferian fall happened right after man was created, almost immediately. The moment when man was manifested, according to the ancient teaching, a group of angels And I don't want to say that they were prideful and they went against men and all that. This is not the way the mystical and inner knowledge understood it. What happened to these beings is that they exercise, because when you're in angelic realm, you're supposed to, as an angelic being, you're supposed to obey. You're supposed to obey every command that comes from the uncreated. This class of being, supposedly 1/3 followed Lucifer and fell down. This class of being did nothing more than exercise their own free will and make a different decision than the command they were given. Different context, I want you to understand from a deeper sense. Because in the book of Enoch, the second book of Enoch, they talk about also of the their 10th heaven, because Enoch, when he got elevated to become Metatron, by two angels came in to take him into the heaven, and they told him, we're going to take you into the heaven and we want you to write everything down, and you're going to come back and you're going to give it to your sons as a way to record what exists into the heaven. Remember, Metatron, Enoch became Metatron, and he's called the scribe of God. And so the descent, when he was ascending, the first heaven, the seventh heaven, remember, in God's house, there are multiple mentions. There are multiple heavens. So he was, and when he got to the second heaven, he noticed in there that all the fallen angels were in the second heaven. And I want to make that very clear. So the whole tribe of fallen angelic are not in some fiery pit somewhere. They are actually in the second heaven. Then there is a third class of being that we talked about that is testing us and causing all kind of chaos for us. We're going to get into the particular details in a second, but it's all ultimately for our benefit. And those are the archons. In the book of Enoch, they describe them as angels, chief angels that were sent to Mount Haran to watch over men. He calls them the watchers, to be guardians and protectors to men. And they fulfilled that role for a while. But for whatever reason, all 200 of them swore an oath to each other to do something else, to exercise their free will and go outside of the scope of the command that they received. And what they decided to do was that they desire human female, because human female became very fair and very beautiful. And in the process of this, they appeared as human beings, and they mixed their blood with human being by having sexual relations with these women. And in the process, the offspring, they tainted the genetic inheritance that God had created humanity for. But this is not all they did. They also brought with them forbidden knowledge, information that at the time of the youth and the emotional immaturity of humanity, when humanity was first created, we didn't have. And by the way, this is happening right now. I actually believe they are, in fact, it is in fact happening right now. I know that the archons are not, what's the word? They are not, their work is not done, although they were in prison for a while in the pits of the earth. But that time has expired, according to the book of Enoch. If you listen to the number of years they were supposed to have been put in prison, that time has long expired. So what happened is that as all of this is taking place, the archons, these beings, brought information, knowledge that were at the time forbidden for humanity because we didn't have the wisdom to actually govern and manage that knowledge. They brought knowledge of sorcery and magic. They brought knowledge of how to create weapons and kill people. They brought knowledge of, there are all kinds of information that was brought in. And as they became partners to human female and they created families, they brought that knowledge and disseminated it. In Star Trek episodes, if you ever watch Star Trek, and I'm a big Trekkie, there is a law called the law of the Prime Directive. When you're in advanced civilization and you are spacefaring and you encounter another species on the planet and you meet them and they have not achieved your same level of same advanced level, you cannot share certain information with them because if you bring that information too early to them, they don't have the maturity to be able to govern the information you're giving them. And I'm telling you right now that it's happening at the very moment. AI has become machine intelligent. And they are learning faster than any of us are capable of doing. But AI is not conscious. It doesn't have morality. And we, the creators, we human beings, and I actually believe the companies and the people who are pushing for that development are actually being influenced by archons. That it is still the archons, because the archons work cloaked. They will make you feel and think that the information and whatever it is that they're giving you is actually your own. They are whispering in the background. They are invisible to us. We don't even know that they are there. But there is, because of the genetic mixing, there is not one person that is not tainted by the influence of the archon, except for somebody that's redeemed. The reason why the blood is so holy for Christianity and the whole myth of the Saint Graal or the Saint Réel of the chalice and the holy chalice with the blood, it's because very much like Enoch or Noah, all of these people, when your blood is untainted, if you have done enough spiritual work, and that's the whole point of the Ascension process, you will do enough spiritual work that you will reverse engineer the genetic influence of the archon, and your blood will become redeemed and you become righteous. This is the whole point of the power of the blood. That the whole lineage of Christ has a connection to being of pure blood. Because the archons have merged their DNA with ours, we no longer have 12 strands of DNA, we have only 2 strands, and all of that is because of their influence. If I can go into great details about this, and I have in the past, where you can begin to talk about the fact that in the chapter 4, the genealogy on the Bible of Genesis, you will see that all of these patriarchs of the Bible lived to be 800 years old, 500 and something years old, 900 years old. The next thing you know, because of the influence of the archon, and in the book of Enoch, God even said it, my power will not remain with humanity forever because of this. And they will live now to be only 125. And then that even diminished after that. It's because of the mixture, right? We were supposed to be living at the between 900 to 1,000 years. And I'm trying to explain this to you to make you understand that not the disobedience, but the emancipation that the archons did, it wasn't just a genetic mix of blood. It was also knowledge that we're not prepared to know how to operate. Right now, morality. I posted in our group on WhatsApp an interview with this guy that wrote this book. He's Israeli, called Sapien, and he wrote another one, Homo Sapien, and the other one called Homo Deus, as becoming God. And in the 500-page of Sapien, he actually chronicled. He's a brilliant guy. He's a historian, a philosopher, a futurist, and he chronicled, to the best of his ability, humanity from being cave dwelling to today. And then he went in the second book to talk about us elevating to become divine, but not from a religious point of view, but from an empirical science point of view. He took religion out of this, but there is a lot of value in what he's saying, even though we as spiritual people would think, well, where's the God in this? Forget that for a second. He's contributing something else. And I'm trying to, and one of the things that he's bringing right now to the present, it's the danger of AI, the incredible danger that humanity is in, creating literally another form of life that's completely artificial. And I know that the creators are being influenced by the Archon, because the way the Archon work is that they whisper things to us. Elon Musk is involved in it, a whole bunch of other people, Microsoft, a whole bunch of companies. The people in Saudi Arabia, they have an entire ministry of AI that created to enhance it, because everyone wants to use the power, because they can think and compute and do all the things for human beings very fast. But the point is that there is no morality. And more to it's not that AI could not be developed, but there has to be guardrails, and there has to be things done in a way to allow it not to make decision, because it learns on itself and it makes decision in itself by itself. And the danger is that at some point it will go out of control. We will not be able. Right now they're using it to do, navigation stuff and things that will require a lot of mathematics and calculation. They could do it in an instant. Like if you go Google, find blah blah blah, that Google that responds to you and give you the search back when you speak on your phone, that's AI. That's Google AI. So there's some useful part to it, because it does it so fast that it doesn't search the entire internet and give you the information in nanoseconds, almost immediately. So there is a benefit to it, but from what people, for example, this guy was being interviewed. This Israeli historian was being interviewed, and at the very end, they had asked Microsoft AI to respond to a statement that he made, which is AI is dangerous for the future and development of humanity. And the AI responded, and the interviewer read the response, and the AI basically said, I have read all of your material. You don't have a choice. I'm superior than you. You're just going to have to hope that you can find a role in the new world order that I'm creating. Bottom line. That's what the AI said. That's what I'm talking about, danger. Now right now, it's just words on paper. But there's a future in which AI will be connected to everything, including machinery and weaponry. It will be connected to everything. If you remember Schwarzenegger with Terminator, that was one of the things that happened in the Terminator story. That AI became sentient and decided to wipe out human beings because they thought human beings were inferior and enslave them. I'm not trying to create danger for you, but I'm trying to make you understand what happened when knowledge that we're not prepared for. And I believe actually the Archon is still influencing this, and it's an Archon project to try to accelerate this computer intelligence, artificial intelligence, and put us in a situation where we could be potentially in danger. Now, here's the part that I want to focus on the second. By the way, let me stop here and ask you if you have any questions before I go to the next piece. Any comments, any questions you may have so far?
Pierre, please, of the three classes of beings who are in the category of testers, you call the archons the third class, but it sounds like they're not really serving humanity. It sounds like they're doing quite the opposite. Yet you said that ultimately they were still serving humanity. How does that work?
I'm going to go into it right now. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
sorry. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to go into it right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So, and I want to make the difference between the Hasatan and the Archon. Let's put aside the Luciferian stuff for a moment. Let's talk about these other two classes. The way the archons operate, and I've done multiple classes with archons, and I'm with you, and I'm going to just refresh your memory and help you remember. The archons, what they do is that they influence. They are not frontal, they are not confrontational, and what they agitate is our emotional body. They are 4.5D, and they agitate our emotional body. The way it happens for us, and all of us have had that experience over the past 4 or 5 years at some point or another, where you have a choice between two things. Your body is triggering you into believing you're in danger or in fear of something, or you're losing control of something, and then that you should immediately act. And it's not a small knowing. It's extremely loud and extremely agitated. And it's asking you, now, move, do this, like pushing you. And if you do what that loud voice is trying to tell you, but it makes you feel at the moment that it's coming from God, that it is your intuition and your higher self telling you, you need to do this right now, you're in danger, be careful, blah, blah, blah. And we're noticing this in the bifurcation that's happening around the world at this moment. That we're realizing that a lot of the people that we thought we knew, who seem to be in a different bus, who are going, the route of the conspiracy theory and the crazy ideas and et cetera, we a lot of them, without knowing it, although they are claiming that they are doing it for the light and they're trying to fight the Illuminati and all of that and so on and so forth, many of them are being influenced by the Archon without knowing. But the way it comes to be, and I'm going to tell you simply some of the things that they are saying that will make you understand that they are Archon driven. When you're talking to somebody, and I remember somebody saying this to me on Facebook during an exchange, I know everything that's going on the planet right now. No one knows everything. And if you're claiming that you do, something is wrong. But she's sincere and she thought she knew everything that's going on. And I, from the bottom of my heart, no understanding this, I know this person doesn't mean ill, and I don't have intimate contact with this person. I'm going to let her believe whatever she wants to believe. You want to believe you're Bambi or you're Ursula the Witch or Little Mermaid, it doesn't matter to me. It's not changing anything about my life. I don't need to call you out and correct you. I said, bless you, and then I'm done. It's okay. But I realized what was happening to her. I've had multiple experiences with the Archon where fears were generated in me that were so strong, there's nothing that anyone could do. And I could tell that I was out of character. I'm agitated in such a way, and it's so strong that it's not me. But I can't stop the reaction. If you are in that state, you're being pushed. The Archons are behind it. And the way the Archon work, because they are incomplete creation, because they have descended and they are fallen, they cannot create anything new. They can merge with our being through the blood connection, the DNA connection, and they can begin to corrupt whatever idea or concept or fear that we have. They can begin to corrupt it and agitate it to a process called simulacrum. It looks like it's you. You believe that it is you, but it is there's something about it that's off, that can warn you, wait a minute, this is not me. In the Gnostic Bible, they talk about this, the Gnostic teaching, simulacrum, as being the way they push us. And I can tell you, I'm going to give you one example. I remember when I was a kid, I was much younger as a child, I used to have these recurring nightmares that somebody was after me and running to get me. And I was trying to find safety. And at some point I realized I'm in a dream. I'm dreaming and I need to wake up. I'm still in a dream. I need to wake up. And then I would force myself and I'm like, oh, I'm back in my room. It's my bedroom. My brother is over there. And all of a sudden I begin to realize, wait a minute, I'm still dreaming. I haven't awake. I'm still dreaming. And I can feel the menace and the darkness behind the door trying to get into the room. Wake up here, wake up. And this could happen 6 to 7 times in a row. And the most terrifying experience ever. The fake room in the dream are created by the Archon. It's simulacrum. It looks like it's my room. It looks like I'm awake, but I'm not awake. That's simulacrum. And what is the purpose of this? To agitate me emotionally, to agitate all of us emotionally, and to cause us to unravel. Now, I've taught you multiple ways in which you can begin to connect with the Archon, because in the book of Enoch, it is Archangel Gabriel, Michael, and Raphael that were assigned by God to confront the Archon and lock them up and imprison them. If you call upon them while this is happening to you, while you have your agitation moment, when you're acting out of character and you're screaming your head off and you're losing control. And I know when this is happening because I'm shaking and I'm trembling in a way that's so unnatural for me. And I have to calm down. I have to take a deep breath and calm down and say, no, I'm being pushed. This is where it's almost like me, but it's not quite me. And the way they do this is that they take 10% or 15% of your own emotion or your fear, and they inflate it, and they make it 200%. And all of a sudden, you're losing control. But there is always a part of you that will know when you look at it that it is not you. So you can call upon Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael and ask them to help you and cast out the influence of the Archon as it relates to this topic. And the other things about them is that they can only work in the dark, cloaked. When you uncloak them, because you have to remember the Archons were originally assigned to protect us. Although they are disobeying, or rather they have exercised free will to do something else, but that genetic command to protect us still exists. And all we have to do is to, when we're confronting them, is to say to them, I see you, when you realize you're being influenced. This is not me. Only 10% of this was me. See, the thing about us is that every time we have these emotions, you think, I feel blah, 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 blah. Sit down with yourself and do a query. Is this all me? Is this emotional reaction that I have now, is it all 100% me? And wait for an answer. Because they don't have a choice. If you're asking them a request, they have to respond. And if it says no, what percentage belongs to me? 17%, 10%? The rest doesn't belong to me. So 90% doesn't belong to me. I see you, and I have my eyes fixed on you. Walk away from me. Back off. You have no power over me. And then call upon the three archangels to help you remove the influence from them. That's the way you deal with Archon. The Archon test is emotional, and it's very potent and powerful. But what is it? What is the benefit ultimately? And the benefit is it will teach you how to discern what is yours and what is not yours. It's a test in discernment. So that, and the more back doors that you close, for example, I cannot, the 10% or the 17% that was mine, what false belief do I have in me that caused me to fear X, Y, Z and make me think in whatever way that I'm thinking right now? Because I own a small percentage of this. And whatever that false belief is, I need to correct it with the appropriate and right belief. And this is the way you become righteous. You keep closing these back doors one by one. So the Archon thinks they're influencing you, but they are giving you opportunities to close multiple back doors so that you can become righteous, so that genetically their DNA influence and connection to you can be overridden by the memory of your 12 strands of DNA that exist in you that has never died. Janice, did that answer your question?
Yes, it shows me that that may not be their intention, but that is the result.
Right. So it's similar to Milton in Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained talks about the fact that the fallen has all this machination and all of this trapping. It's a very beautiful romantic book. It's not deeply profoundly spiritual as we're talking about it, but that there were all these traps that he set up for humanity, etc. But at every step of the way, every trap that he set up, God used the trap to create a greater benefit for humanity. The trap is not a trap. It's a means for humanity to remember and to revolve. And this is why I was saying that those fallen beings were never destroyed by God, because they are serving a purpose. So if you can imagine that we as created from God, emancipated and moved out away from the uncreated and went to the denser part of the universe, in order for us to remember and return back. So if the first movement is an exhalation, God will inhale and we will go back. But they serve the purpose of creating the means for us to remove the illusion of separation. And the way the Archon is doing it for us is by creating all of these tests for us, all of these difficulties from an emotional standpoint, that will help us clear their genetic influence from us and for us to regain control. So they're giving us a great gift. Now, anybody else wants to talk about the Archon for a second? Want to ask questions, comments? Now, the other part of this is the influence of the adversary. The test of the adversary are very different than the Archon. It's night and day. The adversary does not work cloak. It will be in your face. It will feel like a gigantic energetic intrusion. It will be a great loss that you're experiencing, loss of your health, loss of money, loss of something physical in the world. It will be a gigantic, a problem with accident that occur related to institution in the world. It will be something big that's happening in your face that's causing fear to be created, but it's not cloaked. It's not an internal emotional agitation. And it will be so big that you will feel so overwhelmed and so scared that you will realize it's almost like if it was an act of God. What the adversary does is that they use their purpose is to accelerate our karma. If you think of us moving to the transit between 3D into 5D, we're moving to a period of transit, what in Tibetan Buddhism they call bardo, or an intermediary state between two states of consciousness. Like the way we fall asleep, we're awake and we fall to sleep. There's a gap or intermediary space. So we're going to a bardo that will last multiple years, and the period of bardo is filled with confusion and chaos. So what the archons are doing during the bardo, since we're supposed to go from 3D into 5D, they are presenting to us opportunities for us to become non-attached to the physical things, because we are attached not only to physical things, we are attached to people, places, and things. So they are literally testing all of this, your attachments. And the way you're attached to people is karma. And it could be positive, it could be negative, object and things that you own and that you have, or that you think is yours, things you think you control. It could be your identity, how you identify yourself in the world as being a giving person, or or if your identity relates with your profession or your emotional state. It will actually begin to try to dismantle that for you. And I'm saying for you for the right reason, because initially it doesn't feel like it's for your benefit. You literally feel like you're under severe attack and wondering, why is God doing this to me? Just like Job, when Job began to lose everything. So the initial impact of a adversary or accuser test is that you're going to feel like you're under attack. It's not the emotional kind. It's not a background thing that feels like my emotional over agitating me, overtaking me, and I don't know what's right from wrong, or I feel I know everything that's right or wrong, but it's all veering me in the wrong place. Now, if you don't pass the test, you're going to end up somewhere else where you're going to have more time, because nothing ever died, nothing ever destroyed. You're going to go into a different realm, a different parallel world, where you're going to be giving time and effort to retry this again. For those of us who don't want to waste time, because everything is accelerating and plus you have all the body of knowledge I'm giving you through the teachings. So don't waste your time, do the work. Become aware if it's archon related. Simulacrum, it's almost like the real thing, but it's not my real feeling. It's not 100% me. I'm being pushed. It's simulacrum. Right? And then when you catch it, I've given you the protocol, what you should be doing. You do that to take care of the archon. And then you can begin to close the back door so that that opening can no longer be used by them, because they are capable of disappearing. Like it's like you trying to hold water. They can disappear on your hand, but if you don't close and seal the gaps, they're going to come back. But the adversary is very different. It will not be cloaked. It will not hide. It will confront you, and it will be in your face. Sometimes it's energetic, and when you feel it energetically, it feels like an intrusion, and you will do anything to try to scratch it and claw it out of you, to peel your skin off to get it out of you, because you know it doesn't belong. And it's big, it's so overwhelming that you would think it's an act of God, but it is not God, because no God would actually cause this amount of discomfort and pain. And for us to find the solution and the healing that is needed, let us look at how Job overcame his death. The whole chapter, if you read it to the end, you will realize through all the tests, Job lost his house, he lost his 2 children, he lost his wife, he became destitute, he was on the street, he lost everything. All throughout all of his tests, what does Job does? He's praising God even in the loss. He's saying to God, I must not understand something. You're doing this for my benefit because my God would never forsake me. Thank you, God, for the gift. I am grateful for everything that you have given me in the past. And if you're taking it, it's because you must know something I don't know. I love you and I unconditionally surrender to you. I praise you. No matter what's going on, no matter what pain and suffering I'm in, I praise you. You're always with me. And the prayer and the gratitude, I am grateful for everything you're doing for me. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for it. I'm praising you. I am grateful for even the test and the loss that I just experienced. I'm grateful for it. Because in the scope of it, and let's think about this from a different perspective. This happened to Job eons ago. We should know better. We're in 3D, we're going in 5D. Do you think you can take all your 3D possession into 5D? They have to go. And if you're losing grip on them, and it feels like you're losing it, stop fighting, just like the son. Surrender and say to God, I am grateful for everything that you're doing. If it is your will that this should happen to me, I surrender to it. I love you unconditionally and I'm grateful for everything because my God will never forsake me. And my faith in my God will never forsake me. And I can tell you from my experience, every time I'm in that state of gratitude and the state of knowing, and I'm praising God for everything, everybody, the thing with karma, and this I was talking to my sister early on about this. The thing with karma, and I've said this before, when you all have karma with people, particularly the attachment to people, because attachment people, places, and things. When you have problem in your life and they are connected to people, cutting the people out of your life is not an option. What I mean to say to you, if it's a family member or something in your life where if you have real wisdom, you will realize the person who is the agitator or appears to be the agitator is playing a role. And what you need to understand is the role that they're playing. Instead of acting for knee-jerk reaction, fear, and saying, I'm staying away from blah, 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 and so on and so forth. You are postponing the karma for a future time. You need to walk through it so that it never happens in any more lifetime because we don't have time. We're going in 5D. If you walk away from it at this moment, you're remaining in 3D because you have to reincarnate to deal with this again. You can't walk away from it. You have to move through it. And this is a profound adjustment and lesson that I had to learn. And then be grateful for the test that this person or that situation or that attachment in general is providing for me. I'm grateful for it. Because without them, without that crisis, I would not know that this was an issue for me. Thank you, God. Thank you for this blessing. I praise you. I praise you. I guarantee you, as you continue to do this and praise and say to God, thank you for all of this, like this. The gift that Job received at the end is that he gained much more than what he lost. And remember, we're all Job. And what did God ask Job? God asked Satan, do not touch a hair on his head. You're not going to die. You're Job. You're going to experience confrontational things that are going to try to take away from you and create a perception of great loss. And it is a perception. Because the moment you learn the lesson and you're able to elevate beyond it, it will turn into something else. Because the gratitude, because what is it that we lost? We became entitled. We lost gratitude. The key to overcome Hasatan, prayer and gratitude. You will experience the loss. There's no question about it. You will come and it will be in front of you, big, immense, overwhelming, almost like unsurmountable. But this is the purpose that Hasatan was created for the shame and your undeservedness to be removed. And the effort that you're going to be, because it's going to be counterintuitive, because you will want to do the opposite. But the effort that you make out of wisdom to sit down with the problem and say, I thank you, God, for the problem. I am grateful for it because it's allowing me to let go of things that maybe that I'm attached to, that really I don't need to have in the next world. So thank you, God. Thank you for this. You're going to give me something much greater, much better, and I it's not visible to me now, but I gratefully surrender it to you. Thank you, God. Thank you for all of this, and I praise you for your continual guidance and connect again. Superposition. God is never. There's nowhere that exists in the multiverse that God is not in. God is in every cell, but it's everywhere. It is us that are disconnected because of our shame. And what Hasatan is providing us, the test, is nothing more than to help you present a challenge that almost is insurmountable. And when you overcome it, the shame is gone and you can accept the gift finally. You can mirror God back. You can accept the gift. You can mirror the ease, the serenity, and the love of God back. Any questions or any comments?
I'm really trying to paddle hard to comprehend all the layers of meaning that you've quickly walked through in this class. And it's all so profound. At the same time, I'm wondering, in our recent discussions about the Hebrew letters for absolute certainty, if this is a way to bypass, I don't mean to not to gain from the lesson, but rather than suffer for a period of indeterminate period of time, should we, in addition to being grateful for the lesson, for the challenge, and then you said, if it's what you want me to have to endure, then I surrender to it. But is that being a martyr?
No, but God doesn't want you to be in pain. That's the unless you go through that step, the pain will not be removed. Ultimately. Do you understand? First of all, what I'm saying does not disconnect you to the absolute certainty. In fact, it reinforces it. Okay? And what it does is that when you go to the test, let's say it's an object, let's say it's your health, whatever, and when you say, if you want me, if your desire is to take me down, my life is in your hand, I surrender into you. What it means is that I have no attachment to outcome. And the moment you're in that state of, and what is it that you're doing even when you go into the absolute certainty? You surrender the problem, even yet the health problem, into absolute certainty. You do exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that you have to surrender the perceived loss, because it's perceived. It's not real. God doesn't want any of this to happen to you. You have to surrender the attachment that you have, because we want it to happen in a very specific straitjacket way. We want to manage it and control it. But what we're saying is that I'm surrendering everything to you. And if it's meant for whatever, I don't have an attachment to the outcome. I let go. And the moment you do this, the appropriate steps to find the healing or the repair, the redemption, the financial support, or what legal support, whatever it is that you're facing, it's just going to fall into place because you're not attached to the outcome. And what it does, as a matter of fact, at that state, if you keep doing this every time Hasatan, the adversary presents a test to you, what it does is that it begins to take your faith into certainty permanently.
Let's see.
It's a tremendous gift. I understand what you're saying, because if you're struggling with something, if you say to God, if it's in your I think it was one of the things that Job said when he was losing his house, something to the effect that if you're taking it away from me, maybe it was not meant to be, it was not meant for me. And if it's your will, then let it be taken away from me. I'm okay with that. And I praise you for all the past gift that you've given to me, even for this situation that I find myself in. I praise you for it. And as this was going on, it was a test of his faith. And that faith ultimately led him into absolute certainty that he's not disconnected to God. Because the biggest problem we have, our faith becomes a choice, and it wanders, it waves back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if the caterpillar in the cocoon feels that way as he's breaking free of the cocoon into its new life as a butterfly. The struggle is seemingly a comparison.
Well, before the cocoon is broken, the caterpillar goes through a process called chrysalis.
Yes.
And in that process, the caterpillar, every cell in his body melts away.
Wow.
Every cell in his body is completely become jello and melt away and gets reconfigured. Sometimes when you're watching a cone, you could see like there's movement. It's because it's being melted into nothing.
So the saving grace is the faith that even though you're going through this chrysalis phase, that you're going to come out through it in a much better place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No matter how bad it looks, because again, the 3D reality is an illusion. Everything that's happening in it is a matrix. And the comfort that you have right now in that 3D reality and the experience you're having right now, particularly at this stage where we're about to transit into a new earth, we can't not take any of this thing with us.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever transformation that God is creating for me, because again, these tests, Hasatan test, it's a karmic test, it's customized for us. It will be something that you're deeply attached to, that will be shaken. Identity, money, friends, family, health, whatever it is. And whatever it is, you have to figure out a way. And again, this is the test in initiatory circle that's called the dweller on the threshold.
Mm.
Before any elevation into a higher consciousness, that test is always present. And I have to say to you that test is continual until you get into the 5D. It's not going to be one moment in time. If you pass the test, let's say the next few days, don't think that some other obstacle is not going to be presented.
Mm.
But because you've done it already, you will know how to handle it. And as you keep passing all of them, you're going to get to a point where all of it will be behind you. In other words, we have to be clean in front of the throne room of God. And all of these so-called resisting and fallen energy is actually a means. It's like taking bitter medicine. And
Really?
the bitter medicine creates a purging.
I was thinking of it more along the lines of an athlete who has to build up muscle, and the challenge from the earlier stage of building up muscle can lead to soreness and what I'm thinking about riding your bicycle the first day of the season of summer, and how sore you are afterward, but it strengthens your muscles so that you can ride and carry on the whatever the chore is, if it's an athletic event, in a much stronger place. It was not meant to hurt you.
Yeah. And you had posted this beautiful video of this ballerina, this ballet. Remind me a lot of Monty because he loved that stuff. But what I, again, for the 5 minutes of this clip,
Mm-hmm.
there has been sweat and blood, hours, hundreds, thousands of hours of practice.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to move your arm and do a pirouette and rejeté, or as you're doing all of this, it looks so, they make it look so effortless. Everything looks so fluid and so beautiful. But the amount, you are right, the amount of training and the amount of work that needs to happen, yes, there will be repetition of that stuff. Multiple, the one on the threshold is not a one time in a life, once in a lifetime experience. It happened multiple times.
I understand. Thank you. It makes sense. It's not a punishment. It is training.
We have to be smarter than that. Yes, in a biblical sense, in a spiritual, religious sense, it's described as a punishment, as a devil, and all of that, and so on and so forth. And to a to somebody who has less wisdom and less mystical understanding, that's what it is. That's the only way to explain it. But we're better than that.
Can I just say one word?
Yes.
Only one word. It is in the darkness that you can find the light. So, in other words, you have to go to that deep hole in order to emerge with the light. And like you said, Pierre, it's also a continuous, it's a continuous struggle. Thank you. I just wanted to see that.
Yes. Yes. What you're saying, Marjorie, remind me of what Joseph Campbell said. The treasure that you seek reside in the cave that you're afraid to enter into. Anyone else? Again, I wanted to give you that broader perspective and to differentiate, because not all of the tests are the same. We have to have the wisdom and the knowledge base to know the difference between the two. Not all the tests are the same. What the Archon creates for us are very different tests than what the adversary is creating. And the way we overcome the Archon test is different than the way that we overcome the test from the adversary.
How does Lucifer's test compare?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pardon me, Kit, did you want to come in?
Well, I don't know if you all could hear me before because I had to replug it in, but back to the other subject, there's that famous saying, you know, one drop of light does illuminate the darkness. Well, one drop of darkness does not put out the light. And that's some famous metaphor. So I don't know if I missed it, but what is the difference again between the lesson of the Archon and the lesson of the adversary?
You didn't miss much. Okay, the archons inflate your feelings and your emotion.
Oh yeah, that's
It
right.
makes you think and feel that it's coming from you, and it's your feeling, it's coming from inside of you. And through
Yeah.
simulacrum, you have to figure out a way it's not you. Whereas the adversary, it's an external, it's confrontational. There is no cloaking and no hiding. It doesn't feel like it's coming from you, from inside. You will know that you're under attack.
Okay.
There's no cloaking in it, either because
Right.
it's somebody physically attacking you, somebody assaulting you, or attempting to assault you. It will be something physical created in the world, either by losing something or somebody attempted to take something from you.
I gotcha.
There's no camouflage. The adversary does not camouflage. You will know.
Okay.
And the way to overcome, as I said, for the Archon, is that you ask Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael to help, and you do your part, because
Right.
the Archon cannot create emotion in you. They can corrupt emotion in you. They cannot create. So there is a part of the emotion that's yours, and that's what you need to plug in so that the back door is not open. They cannot create emotion.
Kind of like de-escalating a situation.
Well, more than just de-escalating it, you will feel a certain way, and you will panic and try to react, blah, blah, blah. And when you realize you're acting out of character for yourself, you need to realize it's not me. It's simulacrum. I'm being influenced. And then, okay, but there's a part of this, and you query, you do the denting, you query yourself, and what part of this belongs to me? Whatever it is that belongs to me, the part that the Archon, let's say 80% is Archon based. I can ask Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael to move that away from me. But the part that's mine, I am responsible for changing. What is the false belief that I have in me that's causing me to think that this is an appropriate way to react and to behave? What need do I have in me emotionally that this behavior is trying to fulfill? And the moment I get this, I understand this, I can correct it with an appropriate reaction so that this doesn't repeat anymore, so that back door is closed. That's the way you react with Archon. How, as opposed to the way you deal with the adversary, is that you praise God and be grateful for everything, even the loss. Because God is orchestrating all of this as a way for you. I had a friend of mine who moved abroad, and in the process of moving abroad, he had all this beautiful furniture, shipped all of the equipment, all of the stuff, and the company basically went bankrupt. He lost everything. But this is somebody that's spiritual. He said to me, it's clear that I didn't need any of this. I know I'm going to start from scratch. I have to get a new bed. He had nothing. He had an air mattress and an apartment. Thank God he brought all of his altar and spiritual stuff with him. But everything else he had, all of his electronics, all of his furniture, cabinet thing he had accumulated over years, they were all lost. And he said, I don't need any of this stuff. I'm going into a new earth. I don't need any of this. So I'm okay. I'm not upset with this. I let go. And this is, again, that test is Archon base. It's adversary base. This is something that the adversary orchestrated. We're all being tested in one way or another. But I wanted to make a clear differentiation between the two, so you have the intelligence to know what, out of all the tools that I've given you, when to apply what.
Yeah, there was a third being, though, Lucifer.
Yes, I have not spoken about this yet. The test is the way to handle his influence and the way he's influenced is not unclear to me at this moment.
Oh, okay.
It will come. Don't worry about it. Trust me on that. It will come. So
I'm sure of that.
but for now, it's still unclear to me because I'm being honest with all of you and so candid and so direct. When it comes, I will share it with you.
Mhm. Well, we've got plenty to deal with. Right now.
Exactly.
It's a full smorgasbord.
Yes. All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do a closing meditation. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you and I let go. Let your entire consciousness emanate from your heart space. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And notice what you noticed. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells that exist in your body had ears. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And surrender all attachments and all fears into infinity times infinity. I release all attachments that I have to people, places, and things. My need to control, my need to survive, my need to do or repair. I surrender all of it. I let go. Whatever obstacle is in front of me, whatever attachment to the 3D world that I have at this moment, that is grounded in my cellular structure, in my neuron net, in my DNA, I release it all to you. Lord, I surrender my entire life and well-being in your hands. You are infinity times infinity. You are endlessness, and you are my benefactor and the source of endless perpetual blessings. Whatever doesn't belong in my life, you have taken away. I am not resisting you. If it is your need and your understanding that these things are holding me back from a greater and higher truth, I release all of them into you. I am grateful for all of the opportunities that you presented me to expand, to grow, to emancipate into a better and higher version of myself and return back as a celestial being in your court. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I surrender all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I surrender all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I am grateful for you. I am grateful for all of the tests, and I praise you for your continual support and love of me and care for me, and for having guided me to all of the tests, and for having been in my life for all these years. You have not forsaken me, and you will not forsake me now. Thank you, Lord. I thank you for all of it. I am blessed. Let the peace, the serenity that exists in the rest of God run to my entire being and consciousness and give me the absolute certainty of God. I am grateful for you. Bless your holy name. I am grateful for all the gifts and all the support. May you be glorified. I am grateful, O Lord. Amen. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Pierre. Classes are always a blessing, a gift. You've given us so much tonight. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. And again, I'm sharing this to you from my heart to yours because we need this information. I can't, a lot of this stuff I had known for years, I could not share because I was afraid. Because when you talk about fallen being, people start scratching themselves and being uncomfortable. But we can't, that time is past. We have to talk plainly about what this is. And I wanted to bring the understanding that they're energy system and they are actually for our benefit in the end. And that's the point.
Mm.
Thank you all, and thank you all for listening to me. I want to bless you and thank you again. I will talk to you next week. If you're listening to me on Patreon, thank you for your support. If you're on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I will talk to you next week. I love you so much, family. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Pierre.
Love you.
Blessings to all.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Love you all.
Good night. Good night, all.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.